The following program was made possible by the generous grants from the Finlandia Foundation National and the Lanesville Community Center of Lanesville, Massachusetts.
The late 19th and early 20th centuries marked a pivotal era of immigration to the United States, characterized by a significant influx of individuals from various European nations, including Finland.
Finnish immigration to the United States and other places primarily happened in order to meet needs. Things were not going very well for a lot of our ancestors from Finland and a lot of the, Finnish immigrants who created Finnish-American culture in Finland when they had to leave. There were a lot of factors, including the fact that Finland at the time was a class society. There was the haves who were born into being the haves, and there were the have-nots who were the vast majority of the population and were born into having not and could expect to have not for the entirety of their lives. So Finland was a very tough place. It's very, very different from the place that people, if you've been to Finland nowadays, you're like, gosh, this is not the Finland that these people left in 1890s, 1910.
Finnish immigrants often gravitated towards industrial regions, where labor was in high demand. The burgeoning textile mills and fishing industries in New England, particularly in Massachusetts, provided employment opportunities that attracted many Finns. Lanesville, a small village within the town of Gloucester, emerged as a significant settlement for Finnish immigrants, who sought to establish a sense of community while navigating the challenges of assimilation into American society. The choice of Lanesville was not merely coincidental. Its coastal geography and existing fishing industry mirrored the livelihoods many Finns had known back home, making it a natural fit for their skills and aspirations. Once settled in the area, the early Finns built their first Finn halls in Lanesville and Rockport, but quickly realized that they faced a conundrum in that they had to learn to speak English to totally acclimate themselves in their new lives. The Wainola Hall itself in Lanesville became a vessel for that experiment as teachers from the Gloucester school system came to the hall nightly to teach the Finns the language.
Because when they came, they didn't speak English. They had no interest in speaking English. In the early 1900s, they go to the Gloucester school system and say, we have a hall, Wainola Hall, and we'd like to offer it so that you can have teachers teach people, the Finnish people, English after hours. And lo and behold, the Gloucester school system says yes. And there are about 200, anywhere between 150 and 200 people who come nightly to learn English. And I feel that then really opened up the halls to, it was okay to come because they could speak in English. We're having an amateur night at the hall tonight. Come in and, show what you can do with video, show what you can do with whatever. This is a side that isn't normally talked about, of how it was that the Finns Americanized themselves. It's so little talked about, nothing is written about it. I've given talks on the Finns as the coming race. Do Finns have any feelings? The only good Finn is a dead Finn. All of which are newspaper articles that appeared about what the culture of the Finns were like. In 1892, a reporter from the Boston Evening News, or Traveler, comes to Cape Ann to visit the quarries. And his attitude, it's how things change, but they don't change. He says, well, the Finns are the coming race. They're taking jobs away from good American boys. We don't know much about them because they wear their own clothes, they eat their own food, they go to the company store. They just don't do the same sort of things that other cultures do. He contrasts them with the Swedes, who have a wish to become American. So for me, the greatest impact of the Finnish halls comes at the moment when the Finns realized they need to Americanize. So there was an awareness by that time that the Finn halls, the story was done. And well, what did that mean? I mean, they had survived McCarthyism, they'd survived a great deal of stuff that had happened in America.
The political landscape within the Finn halls was diverse, with various factions competing for influence. Socialists advocated for workers' rights, economic justice, and labor organizing. The Communists supported revolutionary change and maintained ties with Soviet institutions, leading to internal conflicts within Finnish communities. The Social Democrats sought reform within the existing capitalist system rather than revolutionary upheaval. They promoted labor unions, political engagement, and social welfare but rejected violent revolution. Wainola Hall itself was a temperance hall. The temperance societies promoted sobriety, education, and community cohesion among Finnish immigrants, many of whom worked in the local granite quarries. Wainola was active until 1945, when the building burned down due to a nearby grass fire that had spread. All in all, the Finn halls in Lanesville and Rockport played a crucial role in shaping the political consciousness of Finnish immigrants, providing spaces for debate, labor organizing, and cultural preservation, as well as integrating themselves into their newly adopted homeland of America. Through it all, the Finn halls provided a space where one could go to gather with their peers and participate in a variety of activities. For Finnish immigrants, granite work offered a rare opportunity, even if it came with harsh conditions and difficulties just getting to the quarries themselves.
People from Lanesville would walk across Dogtown Common to their jobs in the quarries. And they had lines where they met in the morning and then walked over together all the way over to the quarries.
In towns like Lanesville, Finnish granite workers formed tight-knit communities that relied heavily on the Finn halls. One of their most enduring functions was as venues for musical performances, dances, and other cultural events.
We're going to start with the Finnish national anthem, written by Frederick Paasius in the 1850s. Paasius was the first music pedagogue, first teacher of sort of intense higher learning of music in Finland. At that time, he started the Helsinki Music School, which then evolved into all the different versions coming up to the Sibelius Academy. He's German, a German immigrant, and he wrote this piece as a kind of a Finnish song. I don't think that he ever intended it to be the national anthem of Finland. And frankly, there are people today in Finland who kind of don't think that Maamme Laulu is the best choice of all the possible choices for the Finnish national anthem. The brass band's going to play one a little bit later called Kotimaani Ompi Suomi, which I think is also a very good possibility. And among Finnish-Americans, if anyone ever plays Finlandia, everybody stands up because they think that's the national anthem. But anyway, it is the national anthem nevertheless.
Perhaps one of the most famous musicians of Finnish descent to rise to worldwide fame was Sylvester Ahila. Ahila was born in 1902 in Lanesville and began playing the trumpet as a child, and it quickly became evident that he had untapped talent.
He was very famous throughout the world. But he retired back here. He had a nice home back in the woods there. I know my father did quite an article. My father was on the newspaper, and he did quite an article on Sylvester and his house and his history, and his wife was still there. People were trying to get him to leave it as a trust, but he died, and she gave it to the church. But this was left. This was his father's dairy barn. Later on, about 40 years ago, it became a nursery school. My kids came over here for preschool. And then it's been a number of things till finally the community bought it, which is a very good idea, because to have a nice building like this to meet in and do things in is wonderful. And very much in keeping with the Finnish idea. I mean, they worked all day, these guys, in the quarries. The women worked all day. And then they'd get together and rehearse these plays and put them on. They often forgot their lines. Nobody cared. They shouted out to them. You know, everybody, the kids were there on the floor on the first row. I mean, they just had a jolly good time. And one part of it was, of course, that they could speak their own language. Like I'm sure your grandmother would have liked to have gone to an Italian play.
So these plays, then, what were they for? They were really intended for the immigrants here, aside from making money for the Finn Hall, which they were a primary goal. They were intended to be folk plays and Western cultural plays that they could use to remember what life had been like in Finland. You'll see definitely so much of this is about scenes from Finland. And that was for them to remember their homeland, and very much so to educate their children on what the life had been back in Finland. And it is said that in those times, the front few rows would all have been children who were laughing and enjoying and learning about Finland in that process. And so we were really surprised, given the reputation of the Finns, I might add, being one, that half of the plays were actually comedies. But they were nested in the folk life and also many times, which you'll see tonight, the class struggles that were being experienced of the aristocracy and the peasants back home. And then during the strikes and the unions around here, even in the granite quarry workers, these lessons of what was like in a class-based structure and aristocracy and others. It was for enjoyment and also memory and also education about life and culture and politics, and to bring their children into this great cultural experience that was the Finnish-American theater and music and lectures and everything else that was part of the culture here on Cape Ann.
My mother clearly remembered a guy. The couple was on left stage, right stage, and she said it was a snowstorm and they were saying goodbye to each other. He had to go to war or something. It was a classic play. And the guy, the stagehand, who was always drunk, climbed a ladder on the outside of the flat, and he had a bucket of Lux toilet soap that had been scraped like flakes, and he was throwing it over the flat, and there you had a clean stage outdoors, and this gobs of snow coming out over the couple, you know, who were having a very touching love scene. And then he lost his balance and he dropped his bucket right in between them. So there was a moment's pause, but the audience was magnificent. They didn't laugh. They might have snickered a little bit, but we have to give the actors credit. So he got out and he picked it up and put it in the bucket, and in a minute he resumed throwing the snow on.
Welcome! Welcome to the wedding party!
We thank you. You are needed here. Sit, Eva. Has Giuseppe let you in on the matter?
Briefly.
Well, I now have someone to wash my shirt. Sit, Eva.
What a room! Oh, it's an owl's nest.
Oh. The sugar dish. Oh, the sugar dish is in one piece. Do you know, Inaki, that we were tossed about in a terrible game, Eva and I? Oh, those godless gentlemen.
Did they treat you heartily?
I'm only thankful they didn't beat me.
Oh, envy.
Pure envy. There was no question of going in, you see. I stood outside in the yard to receive Eva's effects. Then, when we were preparing to leave and climbed into the cart, do you know what they did?
A bit of malicious mischief, I'll wager.
Oh, a little boy came alongside on the orders of the gentleman, lifted the horse's tail strap, and put a chunk of burning tinder under Roscoe's tail. And at the same moment, one of the gentlemen let off a farewell salute with his shotgun. Oh, my dear colleague, you can only wonder how fast we left that place. Well, Roscoe ran and kicked with his ears flat against his head. Is it any wonder that Eva and I both yelled and screamed in our distress?
Well, that is no wonder, but it is a wonder that you're standing here in one piece after such a topsy trip. You're lucky that you're not lying in a ditch with your boots pointed towards the sky.
Well, fortune was with me. At last, the chunk of burning tinder loosened. Roscoe gradually slowed his pace, but Eva and I were left in the cart with our bones unbroken, but with pounding hearts.
Music and dancing have always held a deeply rooted significance in Finn halls, acting as both expressions of national identity and as vital elements of social life. From traditional folk songs sung in the countryside to today's music festivals attracting international crowds, these art forms have helped shape and reflect Finland's historical, social, and emotional landscape.
Lauloi silloin 100 kilivalot huviloilta heijastui sinne.
Viola Turpeinen, she's world famous, and of course she brings Cape Ann into the knowledge of a lot of other people because of the song that Antti Syrjaniemi wrote about her performance there with you all. She was this kind of superstar of Finnish America, and she was very down to earth, and she traveled around. She's playing at these dances. She's performing at all these halls. She gets her start, actually. Part of her start was with the Finnish Workers Education Association in New York City. So she worked at a socialist hall in their band, which is pretty interesting, right? Hall culture is so widely developed that they had their own orchestras, including one that had Viola Turpeinen in
At the core of traditional Finnish music lies the kantila, a plucked string instrument similar to a zither. With roots dating back over 1,000 years, the kantila is more than just an instrument. It is a symbol of Finnish mythology and identity. It features prominently in the national epic, the Kalevala.
The kantila is originally a 5-string instrument that used to accompany singing, and it comes from very primordial roots connected with the Finnish epic called the Kalevala, which is a compilation of unlettered songs that were collected in the mid-1800s by the physician Elias Lönnrot when he was gathering them mostly in Karelia on the eastern part of at that time Finland. And they were compiled in such a way that they kind of awakened a new awareness of the roots of Finnish culture among the Finns themselves. These are all decades just leading up to independence. Finland at the time of the collecting of the Kalevala was not a very integrated national group at all. They were a linguistic group, and sometimes the people from Savo didn't understand the people from Pohjanmaa very well. So it's a linguistic group with a lot of dialects. But anyway, this helped, and because a lot of the singers used kantele to keep in tune while they sang, the kantele became a symbol. So now it's a Finnish symbol. So Kasia is going to come up here, and she's going to begin this concert, demonstrate some of these instruments and their use, and say more things than I am able to about them. So please welcome Kasia to the front and see what she's going to be sharing with us. continuing on, with this wonderful journey through the world of Finnish culture in America. Next on the stage is someone well known in this part of the country and well known among guitar aficionados around the world. Muriel comes back to make her connection to this culture. She comes by it legitimately through parents and grandparents who were very active in the area. And she also has made I consider it to be, whether subliminal or conscious gesture, to modify her playing equipment so it looks like it's a mutant guitar with Finnish genes somehow.
Dancing in Finn Hall served more than just recreational purposes. It was a means of reinforcing community bonds, preserving heritage, and coping with the challenges of immigrant life. Traditional Finnish dances such as the polka, jenka, balsai, and mazurka were common at rural gatherings and seasonal festivals. These dances were not just entertainment, they were expressions of joy, courtship, and local pride.
Well, the great thing about Finnish-American dancing, but folk dancing in general, is that it is very easy to do, and it's very fun. And that's one of the reasons why it's had such a long beloved history by those who practice it in the past and who continue to practice it to this day. Their folk dances in general are really intended to be ways that the community can come together around music, around energy, around physicality. They're very playful oftentimes, and they have this incredible feeling of connectedness with very simple actions. Holding hands, moving in a circle, passing hands as you're going through, hand in hand with a partner galloping down a bunch of other people who are clapping. I mean, they're so basic, and they just make you feel amazing to be part of it. So, and the Finnish-American dancing in particular uses music like the polka and mazurkas and waltzes and these just wonderful rhythms that are very energetic, especially the polka, and they're just so fun. It's like effectively fun.
A dance maybe every week out here of these Finnish dances. And what I've been really struck by is learning not only in Sarasat how fun these are and full of energy, but how they had all the generations at these dances, ranging from little kids to grandparents who are out there dancing together. And that was a wonderful feeling of connectedness.
These dances were more than just entertainment. They were acts of cultural resilience and joy, echoing the rhythms of a homeland left behind while forging new ties in a foreign land. The creak of the floorboards, the swirl of dancers, and the sounds of fiddles and accordions continued to resonate as symbols of a community that danced its way into the fabric of North American history. The Finn Halls were central to daily life in America. The halls offered educational programs, political discussions, and cultural events. But just as importantly, they housed gymnasiums and meeting spaces where sports and recreational activities flourished. Basketball emerged as a particularly important sport, reflecting broader American trends while also accommodating the physical spaces of Lanesville's Finnish Hall. Through basketball, young Finnish-Americans found common ground with their peers from other backgrounds, helping to ease cultural tensions and promote mutual understanding. As was common for those cultures emigrating to the West, the Finns brought their traditional recipes and food with them. Cooking in the early Finn halls was a deeply meaningful practice that went far beyond the preparation of food. It was an expression of care, culture, resistance, and most importantly, community. The warmth of a shared meal in a Finn hall kitchen reminded people of where they came from and gave them the strength to face everyday life. Food was plain, but filling, designed to nourish hardworking people, many of whom labored in the quarries or the fishing industry. As we approach the end of our journey, we are reminded of a tender portrait of a community held together by heritage, stories, and song. Through the rhythms of Finnish tradition and the soft echo of footsteps in the old halls, we are also reminded that places like Wainola are more than buildings. They are vessels of memory, resilience, and belonging. May its legacy continue to live on in the hearts of all who pass through its doors. And so, as the decades passed, the early Finn halls of Lanesville and Rockport stood not just as buildings, but as living echoes of a people who came with calloused hands and open hearts. They were carpenters, quarrymen, fishermen, mothers, and dreamers, and those halls were their sanctuary. Within the modest wooden walls, laughter rang out from community plays and dances, voices harmonized in songs of distant homelands, and fierce debates gave birth to solidarity and progress. Though many of the original halls are now gone or repurposed, their spirit remains etched into the granite bones of Lanesville and Rockport. The children who once played beneath the stage grew up to carry the stories forward. The warmth of shared saunas, the strength of union meetings, the celebration of Johannes, and the quiet reverence of memorials, these moments shaped a neighborhood, a culture, and a legacy. Today, you can still feel it, in the rhythm of a local's accent, and the scent of coffee and nisu at a family gathering, in the steadfast pride of those who remember. The early Finn halls may no longer host nightly meetings or echo with the voices of the old country, but they live on, in memory, in history, and in the enduring heart of Lanesville. Let this story be not an ending, but a continuation, a whispered reminder that community, built with love and purpose, never truly fades.